Hi, this is Bethany Marshall from Morgan James Publishing, and today I'm speaking with our author, Karen Wade. Hi, Karen, how are you this afternoon?
I'm great, Bethany. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Good.
We're so excited to be here celebrating the launch of your new book, Career Clarity for Nurses, Navigating Nursing Through Challenging Times. Wow, what an important topic, especially right now. Well, congratulations on your book launch. And I'd love to just ask you some questions about your message, because I know it can add a lot of value to a lot of people in this field. So, could you first of all just explain to us today why you felt the need to write this book?
Well, in the last 6 years, I was a travel nurse, and I worked in all different kinds of facilities around the country. And I worked in emergency rooms, and I worked in um, psychiatric hospitals, and I worked in prisons, and I worked in little clinics. And I just noticed that everywhere I went, there were a good amount of unhappy nurses, and they all had very similar complaints. And it kind of made me wonder, well, why are they staying if they're so unhappy? And so one half of my career is being a nurse. The other half is I'm an organizational psychologist. So the organizational psychologist in me, which is kind of absorbed in the world of work and wondering about work motivation, started thinking about, well, why is that? Is there some way we can help the unhappy nurses get more happy, or help them move on to something else? So I wrote the book because I know that nurses get really stuck, the ones who are unhappy and they're thinking, should I stay or should I go? And it just kind of loops around in their mind like on replay all the time. But yet, because life is so busy, you go to work and then you come home and you got stuff to do, you've got kids, you've got church, you've got all kinds of things that are going on, and there's not really the time or the space or a process to be able to help them like figure out this question that's so important in their life: should I stay or should I go? So I wrote the book so that it would give people a pathway to be able to answer that question for themselves, to really kind of figure out again what's really important to me in my life right now. What are my most compelling values that will then lead me to figuring out what is the best direction for me, whether that's to stay in nursing in the job I'm in and just kind of tweak a little bit, whether it's changing jobs within nursing, just getting some kind of different job or changing facilities, or if it's really time to go, or some kind of combination too. That's also a possibility. So, but the idea was really to create a pathway so that nurses could, at the end of the process, they could say, okay, no more looping around in my head. I know the direction I'm taking, my career, I know my next steps, and I feel great about it. Just free, liberated, inspired, and so forth. So,
Wow. And that was going to be a little bit of my next question is, what would you say that a reader could really get out of this? Like, what clarity does this book help provide?
mhm. First and foremost, we do an assessment at the beginning regarding kind of what's your career and life satisfaction. And then we take a deep dive and we look at we have some assessments around what are your character strengths. And then we have you start observing that throughout this process. And it's a 7 to 8 week process. We don't want to, this is a big decision, so it's not like you're going to get it. You can go to a workshop for a day and have it all figured out. It's something that it's a process that people engage in and go deeper and deeper into on this path. So we talk about character strengths. We take a deep dive into needs and values. We look at emotional intelligence, which is really important because nurses get so overwhelmed at work with so much. I mean, just so many things happen at once that they really get stressed. And so we kind of tear apart or pull apart what happens, both in our mind, in our heart, and our body when that tsunami hits us, and help us to step back and kind of analyze it so that we can react more positively, both for ourselves and our own body, as well as for the people that we're serving. We look at things like we take a deep dive into meaning. Also, the thing we really look at is something called flow, which is that experience when you're really in your zone and you know that you are doing your best work, the work you're meant to be doing. There's a nice match between your skills and the challenge. And then we kind of put that all together into through a really solid process that at the end, people are really sure which direction they need to go. And they're kind of freed up from the guilt also of even questioning their career, because a lot of nurses have invested so much time and so much energy and so much money into becoming a nurse that the thought of leaving it is hard, and you have this sense of maybe you're abandoning your patients, you're abandoning your colleagues. So, freedom from guilt. So at the end of this, it really is about, look, I know really now where I'm taking my career and I feel free and this is great.
Wow. Sounds like so much value, and I love the book itself. If you could maybe hold that up again, because I know nurses are so busy, and the idea of a big, daunting, overwhelming book seems just like too much right now. So there's so much that's just so appealing about this book and the size of it, yet the value at the same time.
Yeah, it's 130 pages, and most people read it in a couple hours.
Amazing. So one final question for you today. Just considering the recent events with the COVID-19 pandemic, could you talk a little bit about how that's impacted those in the nursing profession, and ultimately why the book is important right now?
Right. Well, when the pandemic hit, I had recently retired, and like so many other nurses who are kind of on the sidelines of this thing, we felt like, oh, what can we do? Because we felt all this, empathy towards our fellow nurses who are fighting this fight on the front lines. And so one of the things I did is I started something called the Nurse to Nurse Network, which is a free mentoring service of kind of seasoned, experienced nurses, and then nurses who are on the front lines or brand new nurses can call in and just get some help and support. And what I've learned through our mentees is just how overwhelmed they feel, especially the new nurses. They just feel so overwhelmed. When they signed up to be a nurse, they did not sign up to work in a lethal pandemic, and so they weren't really trained to have to think about this. So we have a lot of people who are just feeling overwhelmed. There's also some new research of a national sample of nurses in all 50 states, and it was found that 78% of nurses felt totally exhausted, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So that's kind of a toxic level of exhaustion. And then out of that, 67% were thinking of very soon leaving their facility or leaving nursing altogether. We already have a horrendous nursing shortage. We have both a horrendous nursing shortage and an acute influx of patients and the need for patient care. So we need to find a way to support nurses. There's other studies that show that well over 50% of nurses are experiencing mental health distress. So this is a book about not only just career clarity, but a way to orient yourself, center yourself, ground yourself, give you some new skills so that even if you aren't going to leave your job, you'll have some ways of dealing with your job, dealing with yourself, dealing with your colleagues, with your patients in more effective ways. They'll give you more peace and more centering.
Wow. So amazing, Karen. I know I and so many people, I know, nurses in my life, and I've been concerned and, and just aware of what they're dealing with in some capacity, not the full capacity. I don't live that life myself, so it's hard to relate in some degree, but I do know there is a great need for support. And one final question for you: how can readers get a hold of you today if they want to get in touch with you or learn more about you and your work?
Sure. You can go to my website called drkarenwade.com. And there's information there about the book. There's also a new course that's coming out that I'll be offering for people who want to kind of take a deep dive and with a small group of other people and explore these issues. Also, let me just, so that's drkarenwade.com. The other place is Nurse to Nurse Network, and that's nurse, the number 2 nurse network. And that's regarding our mentoring program for people who either want to sign up and be a mentor who would like the support of a mentor.
We're so grateful that you have written this book and that you've allowed us to come alongside you as your publisher. And we're so excited to see this book available to the public in the hands of readers who need it. So thanks for writing the book, and thanks for joining me today to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Bethany.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.